I will say this, doing this has taught me a quick trick, which is like I automatically drag whoever the guest is to the top thing so that my eyes are more focused on the camera, as
Okay.
opposed to looking down. So now I use that in meetings all the time too.
Oh, interesting. I just fill the screen with my own face
Oh, do you? Really?
and I just listen to both of you. It's not relevant.
You're like, I turn the camera around and just put a mirror up. The whole thing.
Yes.
I didn't even know you had a camera on. Seems inconsequential. By the way, I was thinking when you're like in the intros, when you're like, hey, I'm Aaron, I'm your host, and I'm joined by my co-host, Ken. I was thinking maybe I should do just some like, hey, how's it going?
Yes.
Like just, and you could plug them in, you know?
Yeah, that's a really good idea because I end up doing those last.
Once you know what the thing's going to be.
Exactly. Cool. So yeah, that would be helpful if I have like a couple sound bites.
Cool. Hey, how's it going? How's it going?
I'm going to pull them from mid-conversation. I'm going to record you tomorrow around this while you're eating.
Yes. Oh, nice to see you. Yeah.
Welcome back to Native Tongues, the only podcast that matters. I'm your host, Aaron Palmer, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Ken Hall.
Hey, how's it going?
Was that a soundbite? Is he here next to me? You'll never know. If you like what you're listening to, take a second to give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a little review if you like. And please, share this episode with a friend. You can also rate us on Spotify, and check us out on Instagram at Native Tongues Pod. Follow us along there for more content. Now, the guest this week. We've brought some local flavor. A guy we know and like, who shared his trajectory trying to make it in the entertainment business. Now, later in life, he decided to move away from screenplays and write novels. He's completed the first 2 books of the Charm City Killer trilogy, is wrapping up his 3rd, and working on 1 more. Sometimes people are just bursting with ideas and need a creative outlet for them. So let's welcome a guy who has found his way deep into it and is loving every second. Let's welcome author Josh Petroski.
I switched my headphones too, so I'm now in the cheapo headphones, so that they do not make that bumping noise. I don't think.
Okay.
So, Josh, it's a ongoing thing with Aaron and I that there's a phantom sort of bumping noise, a phantom knocking noise that nobody hears except for Aaron. It's sort of like the telltale microphone or something.
It is.
Freaky.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm gonna end up like screaming by the end of it on the floor, like ah!
Constantly bumping, always thumping.
Yeah. That infernal bumping. Well, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. So I was saying to him, I don't know about you, like my camera. Like, does the camera also look shitty?
I think it's just you.
Like compared to Josh. Like, look at Josh's camera. For me, Josh's camera is like glorious. He looks like a Rembrandt.
Yeah.
I feel like I have like all kinds. Like I'm broadcasting from like the space station.
Yes.
That's like it's all like sort of pixelated and grainy and whatnot.
The lighting though, I have good lighting.
It could be. It could be.
Do you have a light?
I don't need a light. I am the light.
I mean, are you just sitting in a dark room?
No, I have this. Look, watch. I have like this ginormous monitor right here that if I turn that off, it's like boom, and it'll come back in a second. But
it looks like you were sitting in the dark.
That's your own opinion.
Fortunately, this is an audio medium, and
yes.
We're not going to worry about it.
Yep.
You both look great.
For now.
Thank you.
Yes.
You're too kind.
Yep. I'm already sweating, so it's a good sign. It's a good sign things are going well.
So here we are. Josh.
Yes, sir.
Usually off in the evening? I missed like the first part of the conversation. You always, you're pretty busy during the day?
Yeah, I work pretty standard hours. I think I was telling Ken, I have some autonomy with my job. So sometimes I will work in the evenings if I need to, very little on the weekends. So I have my personal time, but yeah, I do outside sales. So pretty much 8 to 5:30 during the week is pretty much what I do.
Josh is actually broadcasting from a hotel room that I believe you said was at Monte Carlo, or I'm sorry, where were you? Vegas? What'd you say? Where are you?
I wish. I don't have that kind of sales job, man. It's not that glorious.
Josh is actually in Harrisonburg, Virginia.
Yep.
Oh,
so,
they call that the Vegas of the
Virginians.
Mid-Atlantic, right?
Well, that makes me feel better about everything. I like that.
Right. Right.
Harrisonburg. Yeah, that's an
It's pretty
exciting
down here
place.
to drive. I was telling Ken, and he's been down here as well, especially during the fall. It's very pretty.
Yeah.
And have some nice views of the Blue Ridge Mountains on the drive, and yeah, making the best of it. It's good.
Okay.
I'm all over the place. I cover 3 states, so
Yeah.
if you count DC as a state, yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Maryland, DC, Virginia. So it's a big geographic area.
I have a client that was waiting. They're doing like a convention in DC, and they're like, "We're waiting. The DC stuff is just taking forever." And I was like, "Dude, I live 45 minutes from DC, and it takes
Everything.
2 hours to get there. So it's just par for the course. You know, like everything
Amen
there
to
is
that.
terrible."
And I deal with both the Baltimore Beltway and DC Beltway pretty frequently. So, and somehow I'm still sane.
Yeah. Well, relatively. I mean, that's probably
Exactly.
where writing comes
There
in
you-
to help sort of alleviate
There
some
you
of
go.
that.
There's my therapy. Yeah. That
That's
and Jack Daniels help.
The Beltway murderer.
ideally on the drive.
Right.
There you go.
We're not quite there car wise, but
Yeah, right. Well, I'm going to start at the top because I've gotten a glimpse into this before. But why don't you kick us off? Like, what's your daily or weekly writing schedule look like? Are you a disciplined writer, or are you like a whatever?
It is all over the place.
Yeah.
Just kind of like the process with which I've written my novels. It really varies. Some weeks, and I consider promoting my novels also part of that. Some weeks it'll be 2 or 3 hours where I'm writing and or promoting my novels. Other weeks it might be 20, 25 hours. Obviously working full-time still, can't put in those full-time hours with the family and everything else unless I wanted to sleep 2 hours a night. So that's pretty much it. It really does vary depending on what's happening with work, life, anywhere from 2 to 3 hours to 20, 25 hours. So pretty big
that's wild.
range. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a time you like to write?
That also completely depends. It's typically right now going to be nights and weekends. So more so during the weekends right now. There are times with work where I am able to do a little bit during the day. You know, I have some autonomy. So if I want to take a little extended lunchtime, I can do that.
Mhm.
So there really is no rhyme or reason. Whenever I think that I have some free time and can do it, I find a way to fit it in somehow. Yep.
Do
Yeah.
you find that you can like, I don't know, like shift gears, like going from such a creative space, and obviously if you're doing like sort of medical sales, that kind of thing, or whatever,
Mhm.
you're out, talking to people, but it's just a very different headspace. Do you find that like it's easy for you to, can you compartmentalize? Do you know what I mean? And like switch it quickly?
Yeah, you kind of have to. And you're absolutely right. You have to get in a completely different space, going from medical sales to writing novel, dark psychological thriller novels. And I love it though. It's as you kind of alluded, it's my therapy, it's my escape. So it's great. You know, with sales, you get a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. What have you done for me lately? If you have one good year,
Sure.
first couple months of the next year, if you're not doing well, it can be stressful. So writing is a part of, again, getting through all that. But I enjoy both.
Yeah. Do you structure a lot? Like when you're working on a new novel, I'm assuming you're just writing novels all the time. You're not writing like short stories or anything else, are you?
I've dabbled in a couple short stories along the way. And if you're asking about how structure, if you mean outlining versus kind of jumping right in.
Uh-huh.
So let me
Pantsing is
explain.
the term we've heard before.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure. I've done both. And let me explain it this way. I started 32 years ago writing novels.
Mhm.
Then I switched to screenplays, then back to novels. And what I loved about screenwriting, or more specific, the books about screenwriting, is they really give you great detail and instruction about things like the 3-act structure, plots, subplots, character arc, all of it.
Yeah.
So Charm City Killer, the first book of the Charm City Thriller series, I think was the first novel I wrote when I transitioned back into novels from screenplays naturally, with having that knowledge so fresh. I did outline Charm City Killer with that 3-act structure in mind, and it worked out. Ghost Criminal, the second novel in the series, in somewhere in between those two books, whichever draft of Charm City Killer it was, and starting Ghost Criminal, I had read Stephen King's On Writing.
Sure.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I have like 20 some of the, books about writing and mostly like screenwriting, but his on writing book it's somewhere in this room. Yeah.
It's super entertaining too, right?
Yeah, it's great.
But I was amazed to read that he does not outline, and he has very little information. He has a basic concept of the plot, a little bit of information about the characters, and he just kind of dives into the first scene. And for Ghost Criminal, I tried that, and I loved it, actually. And I
Really?
think it might have been because I knew the characters so well and fell in love with them so much on the pages of Charm City Killer that maybe that made that a little bit more natural and easy to do. But more than anything I've ever written, Ghost Criminal really wrote itself. It was really fun. So I've done both.
Did you find that you had like the big points, like you knew where, like a point where it was going, or were you like, nope, we're just going to see where it takes us? I'm going to have a situation and off we go.
It was the latter for Ghost Criminal. It was a wild ride. I did know the ending. I knew how I was going to end it. But beyond that, the plot developed. Obviously, the main character was already in Charm City Killer, the main two characters, really. So their development came, again, really easy, fast, and natural in the second book. But beyond that, it was ongoing. And like I said, it was a really neat experience. I had that sense that it wrote itself. It was a lot of fun.
So, I mean, Stephen King has, 5 to 7 books of short stories and 50 novels under his belt. So when he sits down, it's probably following a Lego instruction guide. Like he knows exactly what to do, and he doesn't need all the outlining. What about you? The sludgy middle is the part that everyone always talks about having tough with. You're starting and you know where you want to get to. Mm-hmm. But how do you feel that time?
Really, and again, this is I think a benefit from having a screenwriting background. One of the concepts of screenwriting is if it doesn't advance character or promote plot, leave it out. So I've never been caught up in just writing something without having an idea of kind of where I want to go with it, and that it's gonna push the story forward, or it's gonna make this character more interesting or develop them. So knock on wood, I haven't had that middle kind of writer's block in the middle of a novel yet. Let's hope it doesn't happen.
That's good. How much editing do you do? And do you edit while you go, or do you wait to the end?
I typically wait until the end. So that also varies. With Charm City Killer, the first draft of that was completed in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been probably 7 complete rewrites and probably 20 some edits.
That was your first one though, right? So
that I'd written several novels before that. That was the first novel published on Amazon in 2021. So that was a long, long process. With Ghost Criminal, and yes, and I edit it after I'm done that first draft. Yep. And then I do ongoing edits after that, obviously, and get feedback and all of that. Ghost Criminal, just like the writing of the book, all of it happened a lot faster. I didn't do any complete rewrites at all with Ghost Criminal. Obviously, I had to repair a lot of things. And naturally.
Yeah.
And it's been edited several times, but not 20 some. Again, complete differences between the first book and the second book. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. So the self-publishing industry, I've noticed that a lot of people are writing like their asses on fire just to get out as much stuff as they possibly can. And so I think there's a lot less editing than there is in formal
traditional publishing. Sure.
Yeah, traditional publishing.
Right.
The fact that you're coming in with that is a little bit of an advantage. I would know that for sure. Because editing is always going to make the story better. But how do you go about that? Who's editing for you, or who do you trust to give your books to for real feedback?
Unfortunately, the reality right now, there's only so many dollars in the bank account. I looked into hiring a professional editor.
Yeah.
And it's anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000. And
is that for the whole novel to say?
For the whole novel.
Or is it do you get 3 rewrites, or how's that structure? Do you know?
I don't remember the exact package, what's included, but certainly it's the whole novel. Okay. I did use a professional editor for the first 50 pages of Ghost Criminal, for example. Beyond that, it's friends and family. So, but to answer your question about the professional editor, I don't remember exactly what it entailed, but it certainly was the whole novel. And I think I'm almost positive there was a back and forth. So you could ask questions, they could give you initial advice, you go rework it, and then go back to them and they can polish it even more.
Did you like working with them?
Well, I didn't get that far. Essentially, they just
for what they did.
Yeah, for what they, yeah, absolutely. It was very minimal. It was sort of a kind of just an introduction, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it didn't get into a lot of granular detail, but I got a couple pieces of advice, and yeah, it was a really good experience overall. And I'm probably in the same shoes as most people. If you're not making money with the novel, it's kind of hard to justify. And I do spend, obviously you have to spend money. I spend money on some marketing, Amazon advertising, for example, book cover, all of that. So it all adds up, but there has to be a point where there's a threshold. I just didn't feel comfortable doing it. And I felt, I guess someone else will have to tell me if I'm accurate with this, but I did feel very comfortable with the end product of Ghost Criminal by myself editing it multiple times, as well as friends and family members. So that's kind of where I'm at right now in my career.
Yeah. For what you're getting out of it, you got to like look at the investment too and say, you know, where are we in this? You know, we always talk about like for musicians too, like knowing where they are sort of in their musical sort of lane too. Mm-hmm. It's like, are you going to spend for a super huge studio to do things, or, you know, let's work it out. Let's see what we can get done, you know, sort of on a smaller budget just to see, you know, what the product is, and also go, hey, it's good enough. It's great. You know, I mean, it's what I wanted it to be.
There has to be some level of practicality, even with your dreams. Absolutely. Sure. Now with the third book in the series, I'm not as confident about yet. So that one, again, depending on kind of where I'm at with some things, I probably will hire a professional editor for that one. But Ghost Criminal, I felt so good about it that I rolled the dice and didn't hire one. So
I'll send you my rates afterwards.
Yes, this is all just a shill. It's all a long con so that Aaron can get in the editing business.
Let's hope it's just a case of beer.
Yeah, it's a really expensive case of beer.
I was just about to say, you probably do better paying Aaron cash, because his cases of beer tend to be more expensive than you might think.
Are you a beer snob, Aaron?
I don't think I've ever been called that.
Yes, you are. Jesus. Jesus. You're not hanging out with the right people, that's why.
Yeah, I only hang out with people that agree with me.
Right, exactly.
Just sycophants exclusively.
Exactly. But I do think, though, it's interesting. So without giving too much away, but the third novel is going to get a little more like sci-fi-esque, right? You got a little bit of a supernaturally thing maybe coming.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it in the sci-fi category, but it does. No, that's okay. It does move into a supernatural psychological thriller. Yep.
Okay.
So sort of different, right? And I, assuming, like I said, I haven't read a lick of it, but at least more than what was sort of previewed. So your Charm City Killer was, I think, very anchored in kind of where you were, and I think you can kind of see that as we talk about that, and talk about that in a second. Actually, I want to talk more about it, but and then I feel like with Ghost Criminal, it sort of opened up a little bit more. Like you got kind of bigger, broader, kind of like grounding wise. I feel like Charm City Killer is very rooted in like Josh, and then like it gets sort of a bigger story, and now sort of the next extension like gets even bigger, right? So now you're getting sort of more of like a supernatural sort of thing going in there too. So it's cool. It's a cool expansion.
Thank you. And it wasn't really done on purpose. It was just the natural transition and progression of these characters. And the third book, this character of Alice Simrock in Ghost Criminal, was originally just kind of a throwaway secondary, tertiary character to kind of that I needed to connect some scenes together. And she turned out to be a lot more than that. And boy, was she fun to write. So she was naturally going to be the main character in the next book. And because of what happens to her in Ghost Criminal, I was able to come up with that plot for that book.
Okay, I've got two questions here. The first one is, you're from Baltimore originally, right?
I am actually, Aaron, from upstate PA, small town upstate Pennsylvania. Okay. So I've been in Baltimore just about all my adult life, which is a long, long time. So I consider Baltimore home. But originally a PA boy from middle of nowhere, upstate PA, graduated in central Pennsylvania, so kind of kept moving my way south. Got my first sales job right out of college, fortunately.
For the railroad? Were you working on the railroad coming down?
That's right. So been here, other than a quick stint in LA for a couple years, lived in Baltimore ever since then. And this is where I'm going to stay.
I need to diverge here. Let's go to LA. Then we'll come back to the Baltimore stuff.
Okay.
What inspired that?
It's interesting. I got into acting, kind of the same reason I got into writing. I just needed something to go after. At the point at which I got into acting, I was never going to give up on writing. I made a deal with myself when I started it. I was going to get published until I was 70 years old. I've increased that to 80 and probably going to be 90 in the near future. But
that's right. You're 68 right now, so you've got
right.
Don't add any more years than I already have, please.
Seriously.
And that's why actually it was all meant to be in terms of what I learned from screenwriting, because when I became an actor, I then switched from novel writing to screenwriting. So I had kind of two pieces of ammunition I could go to Hollywood with and promote myself. Yeah. And so that was kind of the reason to go out there. Was I had made this deal with myself. I was going to quit my job the year 2000. You know how some people take that gap year right after college?
Yep.
I worked for 6 years and quit my job and moved cross country to pursue my entertainment career.
Solo?
My bride is as crazy as I am, I guess. God bless her. So I told her about this plan, before we got serious, before we got married, and somehow she didn't break up with me and stuck with me. So it was an adventure too, though. We got to do this great cross-country road trip. And I did 4 years of, I had little part-time things, but I did 4 years of the struggling artist thing full-time, which was a really neat and liberating experience. 2 years in the Baltimore area and then 2 years in LA. So that was my reason to go out there. And then the reason I came back was, she and I always wanted to have a family. We wanted to own a house. And when you're in Southern California in 2004, you're going to live in a shack in the middle of the hood unless you're a millionaire.
I was going to say, you're going right into like the housing bubble.
I think it's gotten increasingly worse too since then.
Right on the edge of the tech bubble, all that stuff. Yeah. So what was that like moving out there when you're like, all right, we're picking up, we're going out. Did you know people out there? Did you have like friends to stay with?
You just walked onto the lot and said, here's my script.
You're welcome.
Wants to film it? Yeah.
Well, add to the romance of this story, we had an apartment that was literally 2 blocks from the Walk of Stars. And it was high enough. It overlooked this illuminated pool in the apartment. And overlooked there's not much of a skyline to Hollywood, but you could see all the main buildings. It was really cool. But anyway, no, I did know I had a couple connections. I had gone to I believe it was I'd been to a couple conferences along the way. One was a novel conference. One was a screenwriting pitch conference. I actually flew out to LA for the screenwriting one. And I had met a couple people, one of whom became one of our good friends out there. She was also an aspiring actress in the industry. And another woman was a aspiring producer. I think they were kind of a little bit in it, a little deeper than aspiring, actually. And the latter person ended up producing a short screenplay that I wrote called Church Feather that actually got pretty good production value. It did well in a couple film festivals. So that was a neat experience. So the answer to your question is yes, I had a couple people that I knew, but I was almost starting from scratch. And I coincidentally had a cousin that lived an hour from LA as well. So I had, had a little bit of love going on.
So a little bit to help you. Yeah. But
not totally blind.
Yeah.
Not totally. Yeah.
The work that you did out there, do you have copies? Is there do you have the back screeners of them?
Yeah. They're all on, I think some of them might be VHS. Is that possible? No, they're on DVD. Yeah, I do have copies. Yeah. Okay. And I did the whole, with all my acting stuff, you do gosh, it's been so long since we moved to Baltimore. I haven't touched acting. I've of course stuck with writing, but it's basically a reel, kind of like a
sizzle
promotional reel for yourself and or DVD. And it has little clips of all kinds of stuff. It's hilarious.
That's how I hired Ken. He sent me his.
Yes, and I did. I did. And it was the tasteful nudes that got it.
Oh boy, that'll do it, man.
It usually does.
That's right. I'll post it up on our Instagram at some point.
There's a real Weinstein thing working there over in the Palmer household. Anyway,
it's just a coincidence that it takes place on a couch.
True.
Oh,
real quick. So
this is racier than I thought it was going to be. I like
about the so the screenwriting process for you, like out there. So now you're out there working and doing that. Did you find that to be a grind? Was it hard getting acting gigs, getting screenwriting gigs? How was that experience?
Both of them were equally challenging. I took acting classes. I went to networking events. I kind of did everything that they say you're supposed to do for both screenwriting and acting. Mm-hmm. And the reality is,
none of it matters.
Part of people with major success is getting even a little bit of a lucky break along the way, and meeting the right person at the right time, or they see you during a play and they're looking to cast you for that exact type of role for a movie or a TV show. And it just didn't happen for me, which is fine. But it was a fulfilling experience. Let's put it that way for both. Again, I had a short film produced. A play that I wrote was, I belonged to a theater group out there called Sacred Fools Theater. And a short play I produced got produced in a play, and I got to cast myself as the main character. Was directed by a guy, actually, forget his, Amir something. He's in commercials. He's all over the place, actually. Anyway, so that was a neat experience. And again, I did option a screenplay, a feature-length screenplay that made me pretty rich for a while.
Yeah,
Optioned it for a whole $1. Bastards out there.
What'd you do with all that?
Bought a pack of gum, kept writing screenplays.
Right. Did it ever see the light of day? Anything? Like whatever you optioned?
No, definitely didn't.
Okay. All right, just check.
Was this independent, or did it make it into like the studio system at all?
No, nothing ever came of that. With
I mean,
options,
like where you optioned it.
No, they were a small independent company, and they never produced anything out of it. Yeah. So you option it. I forget even. I think it was for a year, and they can do whatever the hell they want with it. Basically, it gives them sole rights to the project, and they never were able to sell it or do anything with it. So, yep.
You would think with that sort of investment that they'd be married.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
the whole dollar, they're so invested in it, you would think they were dedicated all day, all night.
You would think they're like, we need to get this back.
Really riding on it.
All of it's tough. Yeah. And again, it's also about who you know, and never got that big connection. But again, it was fun. It was fulfilling. And I've developed as certainly a writer. I'd like to think as a person too, from those experiences. And as far as my acting part, I had to just fit this in real quick. My biggest role was I played John Smith in a Discovery Channel documentary. Got to wear the beard and all the period costumes. James Wood narrated it. And that's out there. You could Google that and look that up. You'd laugh your ass off when you see me with this big beard.
On my calendar.
We'll be posting links. Don't worry.
Was that shot in LA, or was that Discovery? So that's back here, right? Like
that was actually before I went to LA. Little did I know that was going to be my big acting role, my career.
Right. You went chasing the stars, and turns out all the stars were here. They were
right
in your backyard.
All along.
That's where life goes sometimes.
So what genre were you chasing as an actor? Like, where did you see yourself? And then what were you writing at that time too?
Good question. Kind of, I guess maybe the same answer to both questions. One thing about acting is they want you to fit into a box. So
sure.
I am not the tall, handsome lead. I am not the quirky character actor. I don't know what the hell I am, but if you don't fit into kind of that box, it's hard for them to identify what to cast you in. I think that was where I was at with acting.
Sure.
Writing was the same way in terms of I was writing everything. I wrote before I went to LA. Actually, before I wrote screenplays, I wrote a sci-fi action novel. I wrote my first book that I wrote when I was 20 to 21 was a book of short horror stories.
Oh, okay.
I wrote a comedy drama screenplay, kind of a police thriller. So it was, as you can see, kind of all over the place. And then it wasn't until I started getting into the publishing, self-publishing with Amazon, when I learned, and there's so much free stuff you can get on the internet, webinars all over the place. It's great. I've learned a lot over these last three plus years. One of which is that to not confuse your reader, you really should stick with one genre. So
sure.
I'm sticking with psychological thrillers, and it's been my favorite genre to write. And that's obviously what I like to read too. So it's working out. Yeah.
What's your, I don't want to say your go-to, like what's your inspiration? What are your favorite or your top three? Like, I wish I could do that, or that's what inspired me.
My favorite book of all time is The Great Gatsby. Which obviously isn't my genre. I read it when I was in my early 20s.
Yeah.
Shortly after I started writing, and I was just amazed at how my man F. Scott could write, for example, about Daisy walking into the room. He might take 3 whole pages to do that description, and through the entire 3 pages, your mind is just soaring. So those are the kind of prose that one day I strive to be able to do. I'm not even close. I'll probably never get there, but that is absolutely an inspiration. I would say my first inspiration as a writer in terms of reading something that really motivated me and gave me something to go after.
You said you were 20 at
I was
that
20
time?
when yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So it was like literally you read that and you were like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to
No,
turned
well,
around, right? And started working on your own sort of
it
thing.
was after, actually. I had decided to become a writer kind of out of nowhere. And I read The Great Gatsby when I was probably 22, something like that, 22, 23. Yep.
Okay.
So I read that in school, and I just remember that was probably one of the first books that I was really like, okay, I kind of get what they're talking about with like symbolism and sort of the allusions to what you're actually talking about there and what this
Colored
means and
lights
all that. Yeah. Colored
Yellow.
lights and the billboard and the accident and all that stuff. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert for The Great Gatsby. And then I read, I'm drawing a blank now. All of a sudden, it's my least favorite book ever. Steinbeck.
Grapes of Wrath?
Grapes of Wrath. Thank you. And my kids know, my wife, Mariah, knows that Grapes of Wrath for me was like the worst. Like the long, arduous journey, the slog through that, and then like, the 4 or 5 chapters, I don't even know how many chapters there are about the turtle crossing the road. And I get the symbolism. I'm like, yes, I get it. They're like,
You tapped
they're
out.
going across, and they're going, I'm just like, oh my God, and the amount of description and all that stuff.
Like Stephen King did this way better with a space turtle.
Oh, yeah, seriously. Oh, and much better with that. And really, The Stand is kind of like, that. It's the journey across the country, the merry band doing their thing, in a terrible world. But like, I just hated it so much. And Great Gatsby was such like a different breath of fresh air because it moves, it's light, you kind of go through all that stuff. I was like, this is what people should be reading, Like I have a big thing about that too, about like just in schools. Like who decided Grapes of Wrath is a great book? And it's probably going to get crapped on by somebody. Somebody's going to be like, you're an idiot. You're just a moron. You get canceled. Between that and the Weinstein joke, 2 things you can't do. Can't criticize Grapes of Wrath.
On fire tonight.
And you can't go with Weinstein. But this to me, it did not inspire me to be a reader.
Right.
And I feel like you need more of that in the schools, which I think they're doing a better job with now, by the way.
I think they are too. I'm starting to hear about like some of the reading that is required. And it's definitely a bunch of books that I'm not familiar with. But even, was I talking to you? Blaney is requiring like Demon Copperhead?
No.
Oh, for high schoolers, I guess?
Wow. I don't know that one. What's that?
The Barbara Kingsolver book. Demon Copperhead, that's like a play on David Copperhead, but it's about like
David Copperfield, maybe?
What did I say?
You said Copperhead.
No, I said Copperfield. I'm gonna edit it so it's I said Copperfield.
You can edit it, and now I'm gonna look like a total idiot.
It's a poisonous snake.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, are you talking about the magician?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm very confused.
She makes a lot of things disappear in this book.
Right, there you go.
No. It's about the opioid crisis in the Appalachian region.
Gotcha. So again, it's like read stuff that you want to read. You know what I mean? That is, and it's good to be exposed to lots of different things. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like I do have a big problem with like, we all grew up in the same sort of generation of this is what's good. Read this. This is what's important. And I think
they should take into consideration the pacing of a book a little bit more for kids because their attention span is limited.
Oh my God, totally.
Yeah, especially older books. Things like Catcher in the Rye. It's like the most unlikable narrator.
Sure.
Yeah, all these things we'd had to slog through.
I do remember reading it like for the first time, and just ripping through that. I was like, oh my gosh, I actually could get into reading. This is okay. Right. This is good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm sorry. So the question we're really trying to figure out what inspires Josh, not what inspires Ken, which is.
I want to hear your inspirations too, brother.
So Great Gatsby, what about from a like film standpoint? So as when you're getting into screenwriting, what films were you looking at?
Well, what films I like the most, or what films
back in the day, just inspired. Like, so when you're put yourself in that time frame when you're like,
it doesn't even have to be like the best things ever. Just what are a couple of things that are like, holy crap, I wish I could write that, or like that is something that makes me want to write more in that genre.
Well, I have top 10 lists for everything. It drives my girls crazy. A couple of the top 10 movies that are relevant to what you're asking, I think Pulp Fiction is brilliant, and Casablanca is number 3 on my list. And both of them really, I love writing dialogue that moves the story and it has a little element of humor to it. And both of those movies have exactly that, just entertain you the entire way through. So if I were to pick 2 movies that kind of inspire the way I would like to write, especially when it comes to dialogue, it would be those 2.
I mean, those are lofty examples. You know,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Casablanca just seems like
Brilliant.
it comes from a different place.
Yes.
And then Pulp Fiction is, yeah, you're absolutely right about the dialogue driving it, because there's so many scenes where it really is, and that's like throughout his movies, where it's just a couple people talking, and all the tension and conflict comes from just words coming back and forth.
Right. And
Pretty
the
amazing.
build scene to scene. It's like, I actually just saw a old interview with Quentin Tarantino talking to Charlie Rose, talking about
You're definitely getting
it's
canceled.
going all around here. Sorry. It's really hitting all the marks. So he was talking to him, and he was talking about confusion for the viewer, because obviously Pulp Fiction comes out, and especially it's been done, and it had been done previously, but the sequencing of Pulp Fiction is so,
Right.
and also Reservoir Dogs, so out of order and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like saying how he's like, basically Charlie's point was like, do you worry that you confuse people? And he's like, no, he's like, I think people will stick with it if the scenes are good and they know they're supposed to be confused. And he was like, if I'm watching a movie and I'm confused, like I don't understand a motivation or something like that, that's a problem. But if I'm watching a movie and I get the characters, but I also get that I'm not really supposed to know what's going on, then I'm here for it. And I will wait and see kind of where it goes. And that also lends to that too, as far as moving that narrative forward, which is you're like, what is going on here? Who are these people? I like this scene. How does this connect to anything? And so it sort of keeps you hooked.
Yeah, you're drawn in with the mystery of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tarantino's amazing at making you so interested in the characters, making the characters so interesting. And part of that's from the dialogue that, you want to know, okay, where does this puzzle end?
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of Fargo, the TV show, Noah Hawley, and like I'm watching in the writing of it, there are so many like anecdotes where it's just like a character will be like, hey, buddy, let me tell you a story. And they just tell it, you're like, do you ever hear the story of, and just in dialogue there, and they're telling the story and you're like, where are we going with this? But also like, what is the story? Like, I'm interested in the character story. I'm also interested to hear why the character's bringing this up right now. Similar to that, I'm like, is this how you are in real life? Do you just have 1,000 of these like anecdotes and you're just trying to find ways to work them into your writing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's tricky to come up with those unique kind of anecdote. Like the perfect example in Fargo season 3, I think it is. There's that whole episode about the robot, the lonely robot.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah. When they go in it, that gets put down on the earth and like sees the entire universe.
Yeah,
like
it's saying like, I want to help.
Yeah.
But that kind of connects both halves of the season and like really drives it forward.
Where'd that come from? It's like, it's wild. The,
turn that into a question.
Yeah. Sorry.
How do you robot?
Yes. It's writing. All right. Here you go. So I will say that. So like working from, I just picture in writers like that they've had those conversations, like Reservoir Dogs, when they're sitting around talking about at the restaurant, talking about tipping and all that stuff. I feel like that is a conversation that has been had in Quentin Tarantino's life, or at least in some way has started or sparked and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When you got into writing the Charm City Killer, you have this sort of Yellow Pages salesman kind of thing going like that. Did you find that to be cathartic for you, like writing from that place where you're like, I know this and I know the struggles and some of the getting out some of the anger stuff? Because at the time you were. So you talk a little bit about that.
Oh, holy shit. Yeah. That's a tough gig. I did it for 7 years in the 2000s. So I lived most
of
selling
ads for the Yellow Pages, like for the phone book.
Yep. And this was in 1988. I started in 2004 and did it till 2011.
Did you think about switching to like door-to-door vacuum cleaners or something to like try to,
Cutco knives?
Really well, Willie Loman.
You know what's crazy? And in day one, when I started out in LA actually. And in day one, I would hear from people all the time, no one uses Yellow Pages anymore. Everyone uses the internet. Why I stuck with it, I don't know.
But you were in LA?
Fair warning.
You were in LA selling?
LA. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. If you were in like Kentucky, I would understand a little bit. No offense, Kentucky, definitely get canceled.
But what was interesting is that in a lot of the service-oriented industries, plumbers, contractors, that type of thing, people still did use Yellow Pages up until probably 2015, I'm guessing, or maybe even earlier. Sure. I remember using it and I would write notes. I'd get prices and I'd write the notes in the Yellow Pages and keep track of it that way. But so there was enough of a thread of love going on in the Yellow Pages for me to make a living at it and survive for 7 years. But it was tough. And yes, absolutely. That's what's funny is I like to think I'm an easygoing guy. I don't have a temper or anything. Whatever anger is into me, it goes into my writing. So that's why it's so dark.
There you go.
So yes, the struggles I had with selling Yellow Page advertising was definitely put into Charm City Killer, and the kind of the darkness that you see in the book and the struggle of Mo Stedman. That's where that came from, certainly.
Yeah. As we were reading it, I was like, man, this guy's just struggling to and just fighting against the tide kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like shaking your fist at the wind and, complaining about the rise of the internet. Like, why would people want to advertise on the internet? You're like, oh my God.
Yep. And you notice I put it in 2008 for a specific reason. And as you know, you try to give your main character as many obstacles to try to overcome as possible. That was also, as you know from the book, the prime year for the Great Recession. So not only was Mo Stedman facing obsolescence in his career, but he was also having this uphill battle with his finances in this impossible economic environment that obviously drives him into madness.
Right. It's wild.
It's a good spin.
Yeah. So part of it, you're writing, from that and getting that out there. When you put the end on that, how proud was that? What was that moment like?
For Charm City Killer in particular, amazing. As you know, that book takes some turns that you're not expecting. And the ending was, I enjoyed how I kind of put a bow around it. And this was, I think, a good, perfect conclusion for that character and ultimately what their true inner essence was.
Sure.
Obviously, we don't want to give away anything about that, but
right.
That was the most satisfying ending I've ever written. Yep.
Gotcha. And then but also just as a writer to say, here, it's going up. We're doing the thing. It's a full novel.
In general, you mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very rewarding. Yep. Yeah. It's a good feeling. The reality is, though, it doesn't last long because then you got to jump in and edit it and realize how shitty you wrote this and that, and you got to take this out.
Right.
All of a sudden, your 75,000 word book becomes 72 very quickly. Yeah. So
yeah.
Now the writing of that first draft and finishing it, because if I finished it, I feel confident that at least the structure of the book and the puzzle that is a novel or screenplay, there absolutely is a puzzle about it. It all came together and it works. At least from my opinion as the author. I mean, the readers really are the judge of that, but it's satisfying. Absolutely.
So when you're working on that, are you the type of person who is solely focused on this story and what's coming next? Or are you thinking about what else you want to write? To keep notes, to keep a journal? Like, what's your process there?
Usually one project at a time, except for the editing. Meaning, for example, Ghost Criminal. I started Shotgun Mama, the first draft of that, while I was still in the editing process of Ghost Criminal. So there is a little bit of intermingling there. But as far as the creative writing starting from scratch, it's always I'm always doing just one project at a time. Yep.
Yeah. Is that the way you find yourself thinking, like, outside of writing? Are you a pretty singularly focused person?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Probably helps with sales too. Like, and sales for your book too, like getting out there. So what's that process been like for you?
Yeah, that I wanted to know.
Like you said, you're doing ads. What kind of sales, like marketing kind of stuff do you do?
Social media, it's great if you have 500,000 followers. If you have a couple thousand followers like I do, it's pretty useless. I mean, not useless. You can make connections, but the reality is when you post something to promote your book, only I think the statistic I heard was only 2% of your followers are actually even going to see it. So what percentage of them then are going to act upon it at that exact second? So you look at the numbers, and it's not going to do a lot to, get tangible sales from that post.
Sure.
So I did spend a lot of time in social media that didn't really come for any. I didn't get really any impact from it. I've done Amazon ads, pay-per-click ads, which is great because, as its name insinuates, you're not paying unless someone actually clicks on your ad, and it kind of works. If you're looking at a profit, not so much. Essentially, I've lost a little bit of money, nothing overwhelming. But the reality is, especially now that I have a second book out, when they buy Charm City Killer, the back matter of that book directs them to go to Ghost Criminal, especially if it's an ebook. They can actually literally just click on it and then go right to the page where Ghost Criminal is. So eventually, ultimately, that profit will come.
Right.
Obviously, I'm in the beginning stages. I tried Facebook ads. Those worked for a period, then again, lost money for a period. So that wasn't consistent either. So those are kind of the avenues I've tried so far. I've done a couple book club meetings, which are fun. Again, I'm trying to still find my way with how to advertise. By the way, I also did promote to some of the mom and pop bookstores, and a couple of them took it on.
Great.
It's in the Baltimore County Public Library. And there are probably, ways I can promote that I haven't looked into and don't know about. Again, even though I've been writing for decades, I'm still pretty new at the publishing and the promotion part of it. So I'm still learning as well.
Yeah, there's never been a better time though, like from everything being out there in the world, you know what I mean? YouTube videos and Twitter accounts to follow and whatnot.
Yeah, that's a job in and of itself though.
It is.
Different skill than writing.
It really can be. And what's interesting about now, there are so many self-published books. You throw in the traditionally published books on Amazon. One of the reasons I haven't gotten a huge return on investment is because I'm in such a competitive category. You kind of have to spend a lot of money to get to the top of the search, because Amazon is essentially like a search engine, like Google. There's an algorithm. But anyway, because of that, how competitive thrillers and psychological thrillers are, there's so many people advertising. It's hard to figure out how to get to the top of the page and get
cut
clicked
through the noise.
Exactly. Yeah. So
what are some of the top categories on there? I mean, it makes sense that thrillers and psychological thrillers are up there. I mean, that's all as it gets scooped up and turned into shows. It's page turners.
Yeah. So there's some categories that apply to my books that are a little bit more specific, like serial killer thrillers, murder thrillers, those types of things. But my genre is still pretty broad. I'm not like a Clive Cussler where I could put in maritime thrillers or
right. Or like,
so it's challenging to market it when you're on your own, promoting it on Amazon or these other mediums that you can't have access to.
Gotcha. So growing up, you grew up in sort of middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. So did you have brothers and sisters growing up? Were you, what's your family dynamic there? And was that like a creative sort of space for you, or
were there any serial killers living on your street?
No, thank God, no. But I grew up, I kind of had two childhoods. I had one, the first town I grew up in was even smaller than Countersport. It had 200 people. Kind of virtually lived on a farm.
There's more people on my street.
Is that a commune at that point?
Pretty much, man. We had a pig running through our house called Irving. We had chickens.
No shit.
Not your pig?
No. Well, it was ours, but yeah.
Just the township pig.
It was interesting, but I have three biological brothers, and then my mom remarried when I was in, I forget if it was the summer before my junior or senior year of high school. So I have a stepbrother, and I had two stepsisters. Unfortunately, my one stepsister passed away. But yeah, growing up, I've always had, because my stepbrother and stepsister were kind of a part of the family at the end of my time of living at home. I'm naturally not as close with them, but they're great people. And I have three biological brothers. Yep.
Are you where do you fall? Youngest to oldest, middle?
I'm middle. So I have my younger brother. He's 1 year younger than me, Zach. And then there's me. Andy's 2 years older than my brother. Johnny is 9 years older than me.
Oh, wow. So do you have other creatives in the family as well? Or, was that a thing, or were you like sort of on your own in that space?
As far as creativity, I'm pretty much on my own. Now this next generation coming up, Caitlin especially, I think is following in my footsteps a little bit. But my father had that ability. He played many instruments, and my grandfather actually played on vaudeville. So there's a little bit of especially musically, in my family history. But I think I'm the first writer that really dove into it as much as I have anyway.
Sure.
Growing up in a very small town, and it looks like you progressed to slightly bigger. Did you like LA? Do you prefer to be back in a small town, or are you just like, I can't ever go back to that? No,
I love going back to where I grew up. Some of my best friends are still my buddies from high school, and we just have a blast. But I couldn't live there. It's a great place to grow up. It's a great place if you're into hunting and fishing, that type of thing. But I'm absolutely not. I couldn't live somewhere that small personally. So Baltimore is the place for me. LA, as far as LA, I loved the adventure of it. It was exciting to walk down to the Walk of Stars on a Sunday, walk a couple blocks, and there's this neat farmer's market. You'd see famous people once in a while, stuff like that. And the fact that I was, very far back at the end of the line, sort of a part of it, but you had that dream, that maybe you could get there. It was all very, very exciting. And where our apartment was located, we were kind of party central as we got to meet more friends. And it was a lot of fun and it was exciting, but there was also that element, as I'm sure you've heard in talking with anyone that's lived in that kind of that environment. There is definitely a kind of a plastic part to it, a little bit of a fake part to it. There'd be anytime I go to a bar in the Baltimore area, they're attentive. They talk to you.
They got dirt under their fingernails.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
God
very real.
Yeah. And this isn't, and I hate to stereotype bartenders in LA, but I've had some experiences where, they don't even look at you. And if you can't help them, they don't really care about you. I had that sense. And again, I'm sure there were some great, we've met some great people in LA, but there is that element. I absolutely experienced it and saw it. So
sure,
that would not have been a place that I wouldn't have liked as much to live at for the long term. If I would have had that success as an actor, I may have moved away to another city somewhere else that where I know LA is ideal for that type of thing, for auditions and stuff. But eventually, I don't think I would have stayed there for a long time.
Yeah, I get that. It makes sense. But writing wise, it seems like everything you do is very, I don't want to say urban, but like city related, populous. You're not inspired to write small town stuff? Not
yet. Hasn't hit me.
Interesting.
And I think that's a function of, if you have a series called Charm City Thrillers, you got to kind of limit yourself there as far as a location, which is fine. I love writing about the city.
Yeah.
But no, I have not really had a hankering to write about a small town yet. So we'll see.
Interesting. Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder if there is that. I wonder if it's like waiting or it's inside you, kind of like one of those things of like, well, maybe that'd be interesting to go back to, at some point.
It may be. Yep. I was it just kind of struck me. What's neat about writing and creating your own worlds is that those buddies I alluded to that are from my hometown, I actually have them as small characters in my books now. So that's fun too.
Nice.
Their names.
Right. They're not murderers that you know of.
No. They're the good guys.
Right.
But you like the action, the bigger picture.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, there's a lot more you could do, I think, with the city setting than a country. And I mean, it depends on the writer and their style, but this just seems to be what I gravitated towards. So I'm enjoying it.
It can be tricky, if it's sprawling and then you've got a lot of characters.
Yeah, there's a balance there. You don't want your novel or screenplay to be linear. You want to have multiple characters, character development, multiple plots, subplots.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to get too crazy. It all needs to tie together into the puzzle, as I said.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, no doubt.
You mentioned screenwriting before. I'm working on one. The whole thing just takes place in a house in the country.
Interesting. Okay.
There's like 4 people.
What's the genre?
Horror.
Nice.
Straight up horror.
I feel like, Aaron, if you were trapped in a house with 4 people in the country, that would be
horror for the rest of them.
Nightmare for you. That would be a nightmare for all involved. And so I can understand. It's a psychological thriller.
Yeah.
How close are you to the end?
I think I'm on like page 90 right now.
Okay.
The script. So,
right.
Anywhere between 90 to 120.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Have you had a pig run through the house yet?
I haven't, but now that you mention it.
I think that's a good foil. I think that could be a good device to really, really bring things around.
Irving? Was that the name of the pig?
Irving, yeah. Love that little thing. Actually, it scared the shit out of me.
Can't imagine why.
How big of a pig are we talking about here? Are we talking like cat-sized pig or
little fella? Yeah.
Okay, got it.
But at the time I was probably 4 or 5 years old or whatever. So
okay,
I wasn't much bigger.
Sure. Yeah. It always randomly gone on, many road trips to South Jersey and into the farm country of New Jersey. And the number of times you just see randomly somebody that's like a suburban looking house with a huge pig, like in front of you're like,
wow, they're supposed to be great pets. I think they're smart.
Yeah, that's what I hear. They're supposed to be actually very clean. Like they enjoy, I guess, living in shit, but like they're actually very clean animals. But
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
All right. Well, before we get into like the big final questions, you said what are you working on right now?
I'm in editing stages of Shotgun Mama, that third book and it may be the last. I might make it a trilogy, Charm City Thrillers. So that's what I'm doing right now. Yep. And then, of course, mixing in promoting Charm City Killer and Ghost Criminal at the same time, too. Yep. That's where my time's being spent.
Have you got something you are working on beyond that?
That is a perfect question. I'm pondering that sometimes on a daily basis. I don't know yet. I have such a library of stories that I'm thinking about going back and integrating one of them as another Charm City Thriller and trying to figure out how to work that.
If you could write anything you wanted and it didn't matter, like your audience would just pick it up, what genre would you jump into?
Well, the one I'm writing, psychological thrillers.
You'd stay there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm enjoying it thoroughly. Yep.
Okay.
How about you, Aaron? What would you write? Out of curiosity, I know that you tend to lean sort of in the horror genre from a film standpoint, but I'm like, what if you could write anything?
Oh, I keep like large documents of concepts and log lines and more like fleshed out ideas. So then I go back to them constantly, and it's all over the place. Like I have a bunch of comedy ideas. I'd say there's not too much drama. There's definitely some sci-fi and horror, but like I keep falling into horror thriller.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
Right. I feel like really great drama writers, I just don't like, that's hard.
It's not for me.
So I know it just seems so foreign to me. Like I don't write anything, so God bless you guys both for being creative people that you are.
I wish I could, but like I know my limitations. Like that's it's not happening for me. And so like I have no
and it's great. Don't get me wrong, I love it. I love watching a great drama. I really do enjoy it, but it seems just difficult, just as far as building the interest in it, the interest in the characters, all that stuff that's going through it, and also like I don't know. There's a lot of choices you have to make about like what's is that good? Is it not good? And all that stuff. Whereas like, if you're like, you have a good twist in a story, you have a good, like, bizarre thing happening to a character or a great interaction on a crime thing. You're like, yes, this is great. This, I can see this is cool. This is good. It'd be very hard for me to sort of parse out an interpersonal relationship story.
Yeah. I like plot to propel the story forward.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. That's gotta be tough to really dedicate all of that to the interpersonal relationships and character development instead of having, the plot and the action as well. So Aaron, is this your first, or going to be your first full screenplay, or have you completed ones before?
I've done a bunch before.
Okay. Okay, cool.
They're all over. Yeah, he writes under the pseudonym
Ken Hall.
Yes. I really winced on that joke.
That was as good as the Harvey Weinstein joke there, man.
They can't all be winners. Oh, Lord. Anyway.
Yeah. Send me a name later and I'll edit in something really clever.
Yes, exactly.
But in my voice.
That'd be great. Anyway.
All right. So we got what you're working on.
What's your ETA on Shotgun Mama? Where are we at?
Yeah. I like the name, by the way.
I do too.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
On the self-publishing, what's the turnaround time on that? So you say, all right, this is great. I love it. We're done. Is it on Amazon and Kindle the next day, or how long does it take to swing that around?
No, certainly not the next day. Charm City Killer, because it was the first one I published on Amazon, was a real learning process. I went through 3 different cover designs. I actually ended up re-editing it during the process of publishing it and republishing it. I don't know how many times I've republished it, actually.
I meant to ask you about cover designs, too. Where's that come from?
That, the first original cover that I loved, my brother is knowledgeable about that type of thing and creating art. I forget what software he had, but he created it, and I thought it was really good, and I liked it. And I learned along the way as I was getting involved with these free webinars and all that other educational stuff on the internet. Some aren't free, but some are. That, each genre, and one of the reasons I didn't have success promoting the book originally on Amazon was that, so if you get them, your landing page comes up, but you don't have the right cover and it throws them off for one reason or another, that it's not the right genre. Mine looked more like a horror cover, I found out. So you have to nail the cover. You have to nail the description. And I modified all of that along the way. And I used a professional a cover art designer and that I really like. It's called Mipple Art, I think is how you pronounce it. Prices are reasonable.
That was not nipple art, you said.
Yes, nipple art, Aaron.
Yes, that's how they pronounce it. I have no idea.
I've been using the other one.
Yes,
that's good too, I'm sure. But so that I would highly recommend. You could be a do-it-yourselfer, but there are specific details about the book cover that sell for each specific genre, is what I learned. And so I got that figured out. Hired a professional book cover design place, and went through that process. So as you can tell from how I described that, Charm City Killer was really a longer drawn out process from starting to get it published and figure out all of that to the finished product. Because I learned so much, Gross Criminal was a lot quicker. Yeah. But there's still a lot involved. You have to, there's things you have to fill out on Amazon. You have to do some research on proper keywords to put into your metadata, stuff like that.
Sure.
And then, of course, get the design. You have to convert different types of formats to make sure that they're acceptable. So Ghost Criminal, I think from the time I was satisfied with that final draft to publishing was maybe a month and a half, I'd say.
Oh.
You anticipate about the same? Yeah, do you anticipate about
really.
The same? Yeah, I mean, that's reasonable.
The problem, though, is not a problem, but I'm not as far along with Shotgun Mama because I need to edit the hell out of it more. Yeah. And I probably, just again, because this is such a little bit more of a unique plot and a little bit twist on the thriller genre, I think I worked it out so that the book's going to work, for lack of better terms, but I need some more feedback. So I'm not nearly close to comfortable with putting that out there yet.
Gotcha. Yeah. Cool. Well, it's good to have you have the basic story out there, and now it's just a question of refining, and that's awesome. It's a good place to be. Yeah. So it's finished. But again, when I get feedback, and I probably will use a professional editor, I may end up having to rewrite this thing a couple times over for all I know. Right.
Sure. We'll see.
Yep. Cool. Well, good luck with that process.
Thank you.
Seriously. Okay. So where I was going before this was hometown. We've decided Baltimore is home for you.
It is.
So if somebody were to come visit, can't be us because we already live here, but if somebody were to come from out of town and visit for an afternoon, evening, what are you doing?
Outstanding question. All right, buckle up, boys. We're going to back this up a little bit.
All right.
This cat's I'm going to have them sit in my kitchen. I can't do this anymore. My body can't handle it like I used to, but I love morning drinking. Okay. So I'm going to make a nice, fresh, gourmet meal with omelet and bacon and all that good stuff. Feed them and myself.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Yeah, man. Oh, yeah. So I'm gonna feed them and give them the hair of dog at choice, whether it be a mimosa or Bloody Mary or beer. Then we're moving on to my favorite place to be in party mode is a dive bar with a jukebox and a pool table.
You're speaking my language.
All right. I love it. Maybe I'll take you on this journey, Aaron. Let's do it.
I'm in.
But so they're hard to come. I don't know if you guys have found this, but there are not many of those in existence these days. The place where I know there are pool tables that is relatively close to me is the Green Turtle. Yeah. So in addition to pool tables, they have great wings and great crab dip. So have you guys had their crab dip before?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm sure I have.
It's solid.
Well, what's great about it is they serve it with the soft pretzel spears with a whole bunch of that kosher salt on it. Yeah, so that salt mixed with the sweet crab dip, it's just great.
Yeah, so, it's way better than the pita thing. I'll give you that. Yeah, like people always do pita, and I'm like, what are you doing? Why are we wasting our time with this? You can't even scoop anything with that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You need some real carbs in there.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I'm amazed why everyone hasn't followed suit and just done these pretzel spears. But anyway.
So we're playing pool, we're eating crab dip,
wings, having a couple pitchers of beer. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to move on to Fells Point and do some bar hopping.
Okay.
So I'm talking now. One place that is a dive bar that used to have a jukebox and a pool table. I haven't been there in years. Ledbetter's. You guys familiar with Ledbetter?
Sure. Ledbetter's still there. Yep. If you were to go back to Matt Norman, his book, he has a whole thing. It's a love letter to the rock star scene, and it takes place in essentially Ledbetter's. I don't think it names Ledbetter's by name, but it's basically Ledbetter's. It's great.
Cool.
and Soundgarden and all that stuff too down there.
And I haven't been able to do this in years, this bar hopping thing down there, but I'm kind of going back and reliving this. This is my fantasy. So hang in there. So there's also, I remember Admiral's Cup was one I'd hang out at. Horseshoe Road used to have bands all the time. So we'd try to catch a band. Then we'd
you ever go down to Cat's Eye Pub right down the street?
That's another one. Yeah, that's a great one too.
Cat's Eye's great. Cat's Eye always tends to lean more like real blues a little bit, or at least close to real blues you're gonna get in downtown Baltimore, in that area.
Agreed.
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
so you just told me.
You could be at at the Horse, and they'll have, or even like Waterfront, and they'll have like a band playing covers, or just radio covers. Let's say a jukebox band, and then pop over to Cat's Eye, and it's more like people doing blues and sort of more different eclectic.
That's
things.
What's neat about Fells Point. You're right. You can get all kinds of different types of music, completely different types of bars. So it's a cool place. But then, of course, we're in Baltimore. We got to have some crab cakes somewhere. So we'd eat dinner, have some crab cakes, get out of the party scene for a little bit, and then go try to find another band somewhere. And then because I'm old and lame, we'd be going home by about 9 o'clock so I could go to sleep at 10.
I think 9 o'clock is when now, being the age that we are, is when you want to get out of Fells Point anyway. So that's pretty good.
Exactly.
We are not. Do you remember, like, back in college, like Ryan and I talk about, but they had like quarter bottles was like a thing on Friday nights, and you could drink. Just go ahead, grab, and like that's just a ridiculous concept to me right now. It's as an adult,
right?
Back in my 20s, when I used to go back to my hometown, I told you about, they had 10-cent beers. Yeah. Now, it wasn't a full glass of beer, but it was a cup of, probably a 6-ounce cup of beer. So
you drink 10 of them. It's basically a full beer. Right.
And you got some coin in your pocket still. Yeah.
Enough money for the jukebox and the pool table.
Yeah. There you go. Perfect. Yeah, it's sad they're actually closing Ram's Head down.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They got
closing it, or
well, he said they're relocating, but
I don't know what any of that means.
Yeah, I don't either. Whatever, we'll see. But Soundgarden now is a good place to go see a band now too. They have a different things. It's very small. I will say though, like
Soundgarden?
I was there. Soundgarden? Yeah. No. What am I?
The record store?
No. Soundgarden's the record store. What am I trying to? Soundstage? What am I talking about?
Soundstage is right there.
Soundstage.
Yeah.
Sorry, edit that.
Where's that located? Is that right there?
Soundstage is right in front of Ram
Power Plant. It's literally the same road. Power Plant Live. It's the same road. It's a corner of Lombard and that.
For more mainstream stuff. If you want smaller stuff, you got to hit like Auto Bar and Sidebar and stuff like that.
Sure. 8x10.
Yeah.
Yeah. Soundstage was the first place that I ever saw a musical act and was like, it is very loud in here. I think my ears might be bleeding right now. This is a problem.
I saw 4 Year Strong there like a year or two ago, and it was deafeningly loud.
Oh my God. So I saw probably that was probably 2017, something like that. I saw Sebastian Bach.
Oh, Jesus.
How's he holding up?
He was fine back then. I don't know what he's doing now.
Still hitting those high notes.
But oh my God, dude, he was. But it was like shrieking, and it was so loud. I was like, dude, you can't, like, they set their speakers for like arenas.
Oh yeah, yeah. I felt like they do there.
In 1992, he set his speaker levels. It was like, don't touch these, and just now everywhere. And yes. I was not at the time an earplugs guy.
Right.
I have now since gone and worn earplugs to concert because I'll get, the sort of tinnitus or whatever. But like, man, that was where I was just standing there. I was like, oh my God, I think this is going to be a problem. It was so loud.
Yeah. Now that I am above 50, unfortunately, I'm very cognizant of keeping my hearing, because I know some of my older relatives, it's not fun to have to yell and hope they hear you. I don't want to put my wife and kids through that. So yeah. Even in the car, I love jamming tunes, and I force myself not to put it above, that halfway mark or so.
Yeah.
That's what age does to you.
Unfortunately.
Indeed. I was going to say, I probably would have had to take a nap between the Green Turtle and the Fells Point stop, just so we're clear. But other than that, I was right there. I'm along for it the whole way.
Oh, yeah. You could hang, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely.
I love it. I got to say, I'm much more down for the morning drinking and breakfast.
Okay.
You too.
So,
all right.
We might do a pass off then. We might do a pass off. Like you do the morning drinking and breakfast, and then I'll meet up at the Green Turtle. We'll go from there.
All right.
You guys might be carrying me to get into that last place. Yeah, that's a long
schedule
day.
a follow-up for mimosas and eggs.
There
Yes.
you go. Yep.
Mimosas are great. Bloody Marys are very hit or miss for me. I have to be
Bloody
in the right
Marys
mood.
can fucking go to hell. They're the most disgusting drink that has ever been created.
They are not. I used to think that. I've had a few that were very good. And the Bloody Mary bar seems to me like they got fixins, they got all kinds of stuff in there. I'm like, man, do you get like bacon and Old Bay?
I know.
Yeah,
I've
it's
seen those Bloody
great
Marys.
stuff that is just trying to cover up that rancid tomato juice in there.
And I'm actually in the same boat. I threw Bloody Marys in there for the sake of yourselves and your listeners, because I know there are a lot of hair of the dog Bloody Mary people out there. I don't like them either, but I know it's popular.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't like the
Mariah's
taste.
a Bloody Mary person. I'm like, nope, not for me. Not especially, certainly not hungover. That, like, if you're coming at it like from a, hey, we had a long night last night, I'm not grabbing a Bloody Mary to try to make myself feel better.
Get
Faux show.
A real savory glass of
Yes, of just
All the
tomato,
pretty
and
stuff.
just salty tomato. Ugh.
Yeah, if I'm doing a hair of the dog, it's beer for me.
yeah,
that works. All right. Well, it's almost your bedtime, as you said.
yes, it is. We're pushing
Point.
9 o'clock.
Yeah. My room is also like 1,000 degrees right now. And if you got some cooling in here. But it's been real.
Yes, it has.
Thanks for chatting with us. And
Pleasure.
Very cool. Good luck.
keep us updated on
Shotgun Mama.
Shotgun Mama.
Absolutely will.
Maybe
Thanks,
we can
guys.
post some
Really
stuff about
appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Safe
Good fun.
travels too.
Cool.
Safe travels back from where were you? Casablanca. The Cayman Islands. Where are you?
Casablanca? Is that it?
Casablanca, Harrisonburg, they're all the same.
It's
Yeah.
all, it all looks the
Find
same.
Rick somewhere.
Right.
Just put your back to the window and it's all the same.
Killer. All right. Enjoy your trip.
All right,
Travel
fellas.
safe.
Be good, guys.
All right. See you, buddy.
See ya.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.